There is a moment when you look in the mirror and the person staring back is a stranger, not a failure, but a ghost living in your place, going through the motions of a life that no longer feels like your own. This quiet discomfort is the first knock at the door from the person you could be. It is the start of a psychological revolution, a process of alchemy where you must melt down your old self to forge a new one. We think change is a single event, but psychology and neuroscience show it's a structured process. Today, we map that process, the 3 A's of transformation: awareness, action, and alignment. Transformation begins when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the fear of change. Most people never reach this threshold because they live inside invisible prisons built from old beliefs. Stage 1: awareness. This is the first act of rebellion. You don't tear the walls down yet. You simply turn on the light and see the prison for what it is. You begin to observe your own mind. As the philosopher Lao Tzu said, "To know that you do not know is the best. To think that you know when you do not is a disease." Awareness is the beginning of the cure. This isn't philosophy, it's science. Neuroplasticity proves that your brain is not fixed. It's a living landscape. Every time you become aware of an old pattern, you weaken its neural pathway. But your brain resists. This discomfort is not a sign of failure. It's the feeling of the old self losing control. Your ego's job is to maintain stability, even if that stability is a prison. This is why real transformation doesn't start with new habits. It starts with a new identity. The identity must shift before the behavior can stick. You must see yourself as the architect, not the prisoner. Stage 2: action. This is where you apply leverage. You don't fight the old pattern, you build a new one. This is Hebb's law in practice. Neurons that fire together, wire together. You do this through micro-revolutions, small conscious choices that contradict your old identity. You say no when you used to say yes. You speak up when you used to stay silent. Each action is a vote for your new identity. At first, it feels fake. This is cognitive dissonance, the discomfort of your actions not matching your old beliefs. Most people retreat here. You must not. You must endure this liminal phase, the psychological space between who you were and who you're becoming. It's uncomfortable, but it is where the alchemy happens. Psychology confirms this mirrors Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. You must leave the comfort of the familiar, face inner trials, and eventually return transformed. During this phase, your brain's default mode network becomes more active. This is your mind's way of rewriting your personal story, your core narrative of who you are. But here's the catch where most journeys fail. You cannot transform through sheer willpower while holding onto an old identity. You can't become confident while believing you are insecure. Transformation requires radical honesty before effort, not the kind that shames, but the kind that gently exposes the real state of your inner world. As Viktor Frankl wrote, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." This change begins with unflinching self-awareness. When you reach this level of honesty, you stop trying to fix yourself from a place of self-rejection. You start integrating from a place of self-understanding. For example, procrastination isn't just laziness. It often hides a fear of failure or success. When you acknowledge the fear with compassion, the procrastination loses its power. Transformation is not self-attack. It is self-reconciliation. You can't transform what you refuse to feel. Your emotions are data from your subconscious. Studies show that mindfulness and self-compassion accelerate transformation. When you approach your discomfort with curiosity, the brain's fear center calms down, allowing for growth. Stage 3: alignment. This is where the profound transformations happen quietly. You pause before reacting. You say no when you used to say yes. Each choice rewires the self. You don't notice it as it happens. It's only when you look back that you see the conversations you no longer tolerate, the thoughts that no longer dominate you. The person you are now would be unrecognizable to your past self. This is the quiet miracle of transformation. You outgrow an old version of yourself without trying to destroy it. But transformation doesn't end, it evolves. Every time you expand into a new identity, life presents another threshold, another layer of the self waiting to be integrated. Growth never asks for perfection, only participation. The mind resists, but something within you keeps moving forward, drawn by the pull of becoming. One of the most overlooked aspects of transformation is your environment. We think willpower is enough, but your surroundings are constantly reinforcing who you believe you are. Psychologists emphasize environmental design. You must build a world that supports the person you're becoming. You can't plant new seeds in toxic soil. Surround yourself with people who see your potential, not just your history. Remove the triggers of your past self. Add cues for the new one. But the deeper layer is internal. Beliefs are not just thoughts, they are instructions your brain gives to your body. This is the biology of expectation. This is why visualization works. Neuroscientists have found that imagining an action activates the same brain regions as doing it. You become what you practice being. Still, transformation isn't about pretending. It's about embodying. Pretending says, I'm something I'm not. Embodying says, I'm learning to live as what I already am, beneath the noise. The psyche doesn't crave to become someone new. It craves to return to the version of itself that was always whole but was forgotten. This is the paradox. It feels like becoming someone different, but it's the process of remembering who you really are when fear no longer dictates your choices. Philosophers call this the false self, the mask you construct to survive. The journey begins when you stop identifying with the mask and ask, who am I beneath it? In therapy, this is sometimes called ego death, the gradual loosening of identification with your constructed self. You stop needing to be right or to prove your worth. You begin to observe your thoughts instead of becoming them. From this perspective, transformation feels less like effort and more like unfolding. But even authenticity is not a fixed state. It's fluid. The psychology of transformation recognizes that identity itself is dynamic. Transformation requires quiet courage. It means disappointing people who still identify with the old version of you. Growth can look like loss before it looks like liberation. There's a psychological law of emotional conservation. Suppressed emotions don't disappear. They transform into patterns or physical tension. When you decide to transform, all those stored emotions rise to the surface. The tears, the confusion, the fatigue. These are not signs of weakness. They are signs of release. Every release creates space for renewal. With each one, your relationship with time changes. The future no longer feels like something you're chasing. It begins to feel like something unfolding naturally from the choices you make in the present. This is the shift from striving to allowing. Ironically, the moment you stop chasing transformation is often the moment you embody it. You act in alignment rather than from desperation. It's important to note that transformation isn't always visible. Sometimes it looks like stillness, silence, even withdrawal. Internally, your neural pathways are reorganizing. Your subconscious beliefs are being rewritten. Growth doesn't always announce itself with noise, and when the new self finally stabilizes, it feels familiar. You don't feel like you've become someone new. You feel like you've come home. The constant inner conflict softens. The things that used to trigger you lose their power. You start responding with calm instead of defensiveness. This is psychological maturity, not the absence of pain, but the presence of perspective. From a neuroscientific view, this is increased coherence between the emotional and rational centers of the brain. Your reactions become choices. Your impulses become insights. You stop being driven by unconscious patterns and start living with conscious intent. This is what psychologists mean by self-regulation and inner alignment. But even here, transformation continues. The self is not a destination, it's a process. Transformation isn't a ladder, it's a spiral. You revisit the same lessons at higher levels of consciousness. The difference is, each time you return, you meet them with more wisdom and less fear. As Viktor Frankl said, when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves. Realizing external control is limited, but internal evolution is infinite. You may not control what happens to you, but you can always control what it means to you. This shift in meaning is what gives pain its purpose. So if you find yourself at a threshold, uncertain and afraid, know that it's part of the process. Confusion is not failure, it's the space between identities. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to stay awake through the transition. Awareness is the bridge between what was and what will be. Eventually, transformation is no longer something you do. It becomes the way you live. You stop needing drastic change because your life becomes a state of continuous renewal. And in those quiet moments, you understand that transformation was never about becoming extraordinary. It was about realizing that being ordinary but conscious is extraordinary enough. The psychology of self-transformation, then, is not about chasing perfection. It's about cultivating awareness, compassion, and truth. It's about aligning your internal world so deeply that your external world begins to reflect it naturally. It's about learning to walk through the unknown without needing guarantees, because life, in its essence, is a series of transformations, from innocence to experience, from fear to understanding, from self-protection to self-expression. And if you look closely, you'll see that every ending you've survived wasn't really an ending at all. It was an initiation. Every heartbreak, every failure, every moment of despair was life's way of shaping you into someone capable of greater depth. The person you are becoming is not the result of luck. It's the result of every choice you've made to face yourself honestly when it would have been easier to hide. That's what transformation truly is. Not a single breakthrough, but a lifelong conversation between the person you've been and the person you're still becoming. It's not glamorous, it's not easy, but it's real. And in the end, that's all that matters. To live a life that is true, aware, and awake enough to say, I didn't just exist, I evolved. But how do you begin this journey? The first step is often the hardest: radical self-assessment. You must be willing to see your own contributions to your unhappiness. This isn't about blame, it's about responsibility. The Stoic philosophers called this the dichotomy of control, focusing only on what is within your power, your thoughts, your judgments, your actions. You cannot control your past, but you can control the story you tell yourself about it. You can reframe your wounds as wisdom, your scars as strength. This is the essence of post-traumatic growth, a concept proven in psychology. The most profound transformations don't happen in spite of suffering, but because of it. But this requires you to stop being a victim of your own story. A victim has no power. The moment you take responsibility, you reclaim your power to write a new ending. Don't wait for a moment of crisis. Transformation can be a conscious choice. You can decide right now that the person you will be in 6 months is not the same person you are today. Start with one small act of alignment. Meditate for 5 minutes. Go for a walk without your phone. Read one page of a book that challenges you. These are not just actions, they are declarations to your subconscious mind. You are telling it, we are no longer living by the old rules. A new architect is in charge. Remember the words of the poet Rumi. As you start to walk on the way appears. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to take the first step. The person you are destined to become is not hiding in the future. They are waiting in the choices you make in the present. Choose awareness, choose action, choose alignment, and you will not just change your life, you will become it. The journey of self-transformation is the ultimate hero's journey, not a battle against external dragons, but against the internal ones, your doubts, your fears, your limiting beliefs. Every day you choose to face them, you become stronger. Every day you choose alignment, you become more yourself. Do not be discouraged by the slow pace of change. A mountain is moved one stone at a time. A new life is built one choice at a time. The alchemist's secret is this: you were never lead to begin with. You were always gold, just waiting to be uncovered. If you found this video meaningful, consider liking and subscribing to join a community of individuals dedicated to personal growth. Thank you for watching.